The association known as Peta, the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, has jumped into the sports world with their opinions, ideas, and suggestions. And it hasn't gone as well as they would have liked, but there is a lesson that we can learn from this. But before I share that with you, let's jump into the story and find out exactly what their issue is. But before we jump into that, let's take a quick look at the game of baseball. Now, as many of you may know, there is a position player known as the pitcher, and the pitcher warms up in an area just next to the diamond, a fenced-off area known as the bullpen. Well, Peta has decided that this term bullpen is a negative one towards bulls, or specifically the area where bulls are kept for whatever reason, including possibly going to slaughter. So as such, Peta has publicly stated that they would like the name bullpen changed to something else, specifically arm barn, which is interesting because if you look at the term for arm barn in Urban Dictionary, you'll see, well, it kind of involves taking one's fist and sticking it up one's, yeah, you can guess where. Needless to say, this entire Peta campaign has turned into a huge flop and resulted in the company being mocked. But here's what we can pull from this as business owners. You see, we live in a world now where everybody has a voice, an opinion, and the ability to share that with the world and garner, for the most part, support or at least an audience. And for businesses, this can result in a lot of positive or negative feedback coming back at them, to which they need to deal with. Now, to do that, I like to encourage every business owner to follow 3 simple steps, and that being, well, the acronym LAR. And the first one is to listen. And listening is really easy, especially today. There's so many ways to allow social media platforms to notify you when someone mentions your name or your business or even a specific hashtag. In fact, a lot of businesses even do this for their competitors. So when a competitor is mentioned, they get notified of it. It's really easy to do. You can do it through Instagram, through Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever it is. There's ways to do that. And your internet guy or person or whoever manages your online campaigns can set you up with that if they haven't already. Now, in the case of Major League Baseball, you can be absolutely sure they were listening. I mean, after all, this became a national joke, if you will, about Peta asking for this change. So yes, we know, or we can be pretty certain, that Major League Baseball definitely was listening. Which brings us to the second part of our LAR acronym, and that being acknowledging. Now, when you acknowledge something, you're not saying that you're going to do something or you're going to make changes. You're basically stating, yes, we've heard you and we're going to give it some thought, or we're going to get back to you on it, but we've definitely heard you. Now, Major League Baseball never actually said that, but in this case, they didn't need to because everybody else did it for them. You see, Peta's Twitter feed got inundated with thousands of posts of people mocking not only the organization, but the campaign as well. But many business owners don't have the luxury of having thousands of people who support their cause and are willing to kind of gang up on those who might question their beliefs or how they do business. So it's important to acknowledge things yourself, or at least be ready to. And again, you don't have to say you're making changes or you're going to do something specific. Just say, yeah, we've heard you. And that brings us to the third point, and that is to respond. And sometimes a response doesn't have to be a response at all. As is the case with Major League Baseball, which didn't say anything. They did not respond at all to Peta's request. You see, when it comes to responding, sometimes there's a huge audience. People are going to be looking at you, wondering what you're going to do, what you're going to say, how you're going to make this upset customer happy, or how you're going to deal with this negative situation. But in other cases, well, things are just too stupid to dignify with a real response, as is the case with this. But you have to make that choice, and you have to be very aware whether you want to respond with a formal response, with a message, with a plan, or whether you want to ignore it or somewhere in between. And one of the things I've always encouraged my clients to do is when there's some kind of conflict online, when there's a customer who's unhappy, yes, listen, acknowledge, and respond. And in that response, what you do is you say, let's take this conversation offline. Let's talk about this in a way that works for both of us. We don't need the world as an audience to deal with this. So sometimes that can be the right response. So I hope you've been able to pull a lesson out of this. And if you have any questions or comments or want to post something down below, I'll answer back. Until then, keep listening, keep acknowledging, and maybe keep responding.